to another edition of the Slate, our weekly or tri-weekly post shows tonight. Well, with Mr. Warren Hayes here, of course, on the Mr. Warren Hayes show channel. How you doing? Tonight, we are going to be previewing, pre-showing WWE SmackDown right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. This is a little thing that I do live that I started actually this week and that we're going to continue enjoying doing, despite the fact that clearly, I mean, WWE doesn't want me to do this. Clearly. 2 shows this week, nothing announced for SmackDown. Hang on. We'll get through this. Don't worry. If all else fails, I have some stand-up material that I've been wanting to test out in front of people. That's a joke. I don't have stand-up material. No one wants to hear my corny jokes. But hey, in the meantime, before we do anything else, thank you everyone for joining me live right here tonight on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. We even got people live in the chat who are excited, are thrilled to get hyped for a show that doesn't exist. Who we got? We got Tim here. Tim Traver. Good to see you, Tim. We have Wrestling Plug Inc. who's here as well. Good to see you. Evan Wright. Good to see you as well. Kind sir. DGMC as well. How you doing? Yeah. The man, the myth, Wrestling Jeebus Mark. He is here. He joined us tonight. Good to see you, Mark. Mark, of course, Wrestling Jeebus over on Twitter, right? He came and joined me last weekend to do a prediction show for Survivor Series, and it was a good time. Thank you for being here. Mark, we've got Thomas Gories, who's here as well, and Chris Greenlee as well. Good to see you, Chris. See, people, it's not as if people don't want to get hype for your product, World Wrestling Entertainment. You just don't know. You don't know what to do. Like, seriously, how is it? And we've talked about this before. By the way, send a link out into the universe. Give the video a thumbs up. These are just like little quick streams, so anything you can do to start off, that'd be fantastic. Evan White left a super chat. Thank you very much, Evan. He says, "Give me my Super Juniors coverage, you coward." I know, right? At this point, maybe this whole pre-show thing for WWE stuff was a mistake. Because the Wednesday show was stacked. There's so much stuff to talk about. But here it's like, but let me just, this to me, like I'm trying to say too many things at once. Calm down, Warren, calm down. You can practically hear Vince McMahon like scribbling on paper, rewriting the show. Because he doesn't tappity tap. He's got pen and paper and he's scribbling in the blood of all the people he's fired over the years. That went a little far. I'm sorry. See, that's why I'm not premiering my stand-up material in front of y'all. This is, you can practically hear him right now furiously rewriting the show. Now, I understand how live shows go. I understand how they function. I know how they work. I know even shows like Saturday Night Live will have rewrites of sketches till the very, very last minute. And even sometimes during the show, if there's a skit that's later on in the show, I know how these things work. But it's baffling to me, nonetheless, that a billion-dollar company that has a choice time slot on a network, on a national American television network that is then broadcast throughout North America, I think it is fascinating to me that this type of situation is perceivably acceptable. That they just sit around and that people are like, oh, Vince is going to rewrite it. Oh, yeah. And there are a few hours going into a live broadcast, a live show, and they don't know exactly what they're doing. That to me that boggles my mind. And again, if you're longtime viewers of the Mr. Warren Hayes show, you'll know this is not the first time I talk about this, because then we go back and then why do you have a writing team? Why do you have a writer's room of people that will sit around and come up with sketch ideas if some guy's just going to come in and scratch the whole thing off, right? It just fascinates. It just fascinates me. I don't know. So this is where we are right now. I've got, again, like on Monday, I have WWE.com open. I'm occasionally refreshing. I have Twitter. I have the Twitter open, and I'm occasionally refreshing WWE.com, which is wild. They still have the results of NXT up on the front page. Like, there's nothing announced for Smack. On Raw, at least we knew we were getting Alexa Bliss versus Nikki Cross, right? And what, we're getting shit tonight. I don't know, man. Little super chat from our boy Wrestling Plug, who I was on his show. What is it now? 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? My comprehension of time and space, I'm not going to lie, is it isn't great these days. So I think it's the same thing with just about everyone. Days and hours just feel mishmashy. Look, anyway, thank you very much for the super chat, Wrestling Plug. He says, why should you never trust acupuncturists? Because they are backstabbers. Hashtag stand up slate. See, personally, I kind of like it. I kind of like it. I don't know where. It's the kind of thing that would end up in my. It's really the kind of thing that would end up in my, in my own stand up routine for sure. That's absolutely 100% for sure. In the meantime, let's start up a poll, shall we? Let's just go and use a poll. Hopefully the bots will contribute tonight. The bots will work. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We'll see what happens. So yeah, another super chat by Evan Wright. Thank you very much. He says, I'm getting angry at NXT, Mr. Hayes. No bueno. Man, I mean, I think the idea of NXT, I think one of the reasons why we get mad at NXT, or at least that we get frustrated at it, is because it's really kind of a shell of what it used to be. You know, it's really not the same show that it was. I don't know. But it is frustrating in that context. DGMC left us a super chat as well. Thank you very much. He says, does Tribal Chief make up for the past 6 years? Does it make up for the past 6 years? Look, I'll tell you this much. I'm excited that Roman is getting a proper, interesting, meaty push. Something that really feels creative, fresh, and in which he can kind of revel, right? Frankly, I really think that if if Roman were to, I don't know. I don't think if it'll make up for the past 6 years where a lot of us were like, turn him heel. But if he's going to pivot here, because he still has years in front of him, I don't think, like, he's not going to retire tomorrow. This is definitely the oomph that was needed to get him out of that area where it's like, well, if Roman wins, we riot kind of thing, versus now there's something interesting going on with him. So if anything, it's a bit of a renaissance that's really interesting. I want to say hello to Nikki and Manny Santos in the chat. Manny seems to be saying that WWE has announced matches, but I don't see them. I don't see them either on their site. If you can point to me where the announcements were made, they're not on their Twitter account. They're neither on WWE.com. So I'd gladly like to talk about the matchups that they have set up, but I don't see a thing. It's Untitled, of course it is. It all makes sense. And I forgot my password, so what are you gonna do? So there we have it. So okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. Let's talk about what's been happening anyway. Look, clearly, well, where are you guys seeing the matches? This is like, seriously. You're posting the matches, but okay. Now 46 seconds later, we have Elise Ashton, who has the scoop on tonight's SmackDown. Okay, and fresh off the win over Jey Uso from last week and Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn. Okay, so we're getting Bryan versus Zayn. Then we have Survivor Series teammates who are going to collide. I may or may not try to speak at the same time she is. Otis versus Baron Corbin. Can they get along after that loss at Survivor Series? Probably not. And then the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, take on Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. And they want the smoke. Okay. Okay. Let's start about the matches that let's start talking about Otis versus Corbin. Like, literally, WWE did the same thing on Monday. It's like they didn't post anything all day, then all of a sudden, boom, they have social shoot a thing with one of their talking mic stands, and then they put it up on social media. So we have it here. So first and foremost, the Otis versus Baron Corbin is probably the least interesting match we could get. I mean, I don't know. Here's the and this is wild. It's a wild thing. I'd like to say hello to William Davis before we go on. Here's what's really wild to me is that we had Baron Corbin, who has been not literally. I don't want to say literally. He's not in the literal rut. It's like Wednesday JR called he called John Silver a literal bowling ball. He's like, he's not a literal bowling ball, JR. I understand what you mean. He's a figurative bowling ball, but he's not round round with holes to, and he doesn't. Okay, I'm just gonna stop there. I'll rework that one and I'll add it into my stand-up routine as well. So Baron Corbin has been in a rut for the better part of the month after he won King of the Ring. Once he was done with his feud with Chad Gable, they haven't been doing anything with him. He's just the guy who's been the guy they always send out to goof on, to get weirdly slammed. Notwithstanding on top of that, all of the the dog food stuff, and it's been horrible. And the thing is that, and I maintain this, and this is one of the hills that I will defend, but I don't know if I'll die on. But Baron Corbin can go. I will still maintain this. Baron Corbin can go. Okay, I'll leave it as that. But his character is boring as hell. It's so dull. Nothing's been happening. He's not interesting. Not a good heel. Nothing. And I think he could be, but they just give him so much corny stuff. So it's completely uninteresting on that point. And Otis, and here's the wild thing about Otis. Otis got over, and he got over like crazy. He really did. Off of that, and this is a hill I will die on, over that fantastic angle that they had with Mandy Rose and Dolph and Sonya Deville. I thought brilliant stuff. Absolutely brilliant stuff. But look at where he is now. Giving him Money in the Bank, huge mistake. Ends up just like completely fizzled out. Nothing of substance is happening with him. And they've been cooling him off. And I can't help but point this out to y'all when this kind of stuff happens. They have people who start getting hot. They're hot, and then all of a sudden, oh, we got to pull them back. Just like what they're doing with Bayley, you know? It's like, oh, no, can't keep them that hot. Got to pull them back. Got to pull back a little bit. So what is the interest of this match tonight? Why is it announced? You know, if it's a match that just appears on the card, you're watching the show, and this appears between two matches that have been announced, you're like, oh, okay. Just, a palate cleanser, a lead-in, whatever. But, I mean, there's nothing here. The only thing that's what's worrying me here is that maybe they'll lead into a feud between the two? And if they do, Jesus. I don't think we're really excited about it. I'm not anyway. So I don't know. There's nothing really here to get the blood pumping. Let's put it that way. I want to say hello to Dan Reed of Pro Wrestling Eve. Good to see you, Dan. So that's one thing. Then we had, what was the other match? Street Profits versus Ziggler and Rude. I still maintain Street Profits in the New Day at Survivor Series was very good. Thought it was a good tag team match. I forgot to see, or maybe didn't quite grab my attention. I couldn't tell if it was for the titles or not, but probably not. Knowing WWE's booking style, this will probably be a non-title match upon which the heels will win to then get a title shot against the champions, and then the champions are going to win that match. That's usually how it goes, right? But I'm excited to see just how far they go with Street Profits, because you dial back the corniness a bit and the jokes and the energy that is our boy Montez Ford, and I think you have a very, very solid act. I think Montez likes to over deliver. He's very enthusiastic. He's very he's very forward coming. He's a guy who likes to express himself very, very loudly, and which is something I can relate to, by the way. But if he dials it back a little bit, I think he becomes a lot more palatable. And the Street Profits are not a bad team. They've never been a bad team. I think they've, again, been saddled with weird creative. I think they've been given very lame roles since their arrival in the company. Let's not forget that they were like they were like the hosts of Raw for a while, recapping the events after every commercial or so. I mean, their presentation hasn't been the best, but they're still good. They're still good wrestlers. Now, why are they fighting Rude and Ziggler, who just recently reformed and so on? You could be asking yourself. You could be saying, well, champions have to defend their belts. They have to check out new contenders. Maybe Rude and Ziggler are high on the list. And I'm like, well, I mean, I'm like, no, they're going against Rude and Ziggler because the WWE tag team division is bare. There's just no one. You have Shinsuke and Cesaro. You have on SmackDown. Shinsuke and Cesaro. You have Lucha House Party. Rude and Ziggler, Street Profits. That's pretty much it, if I'm not mistaken. Because of course they had to break up Heavy Machinery because you wouldn't want Otis to continue to have a proper purpose. It's all very strange to me. Oh, and they have Miz and Morrison. Although Lucha House Party's on Raw. See, I don't. Here, let's take a minute here. Let's go have a look-see. There we go. We'll just get this up here and make sure then what we're talking about. Okay, well, they have the Forgotten Sons, which are literally forgotten, right, at this point. Like I said, Shinsuke and Cesaro, the Street Profits, they have no one. You know, maybe they'll form a team with, maybe the Mysterios will make a team, or Murphy and Dominic, or something like. I don't know, man. Anyway, the tag team situation is just what it is, and it's been like this for a long time. Now, this isn't news. This isn't a brand new thing. It's not exciting. However, Daniel Bryan versus Sami Zayn, Bryan Danielson versus El Generico, that, my friends, though, that's something to look forward to. That's some, right now, it's as if WWE has, or Sami Zayn, I should say, they're starting to give him a little more leeway to do some great stuff. The ladder match that he had, was it at Hell in a Cell? I'm drawing a blank. The ladder match that he had with AJ Styles and it was at Hell in a Cell with AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy was absolutely fantastic. And if we start seeing more of the brilliance that Sami has, that as fans and as people who have watched his career, seeing him in Ring of Honor and in the independent circuit and even in NXT, if we can see some of that, that's really exciting. And he's wrestling Daniel Bryan, who, and I appreciate Daniel Bryan for this. You really get the vibe that these days he's like, you know what? Put me in stuff, but I want to wrestle people that I feel I can put on good matches with. You really feel, like kind of when he was doing that thing with Gulak for a while. It's as if, it's as if he was saying, I want to do things with Drew Gulak. Put me in a program with Drew Gulak. Otherwise, just, send me home kind of thing. I feel like I feel this is the type of situation, it's the type of situation that Daniel Bryan could request. It makes sense to me. And why not have Bryan and Zayn fight for the IC title? Why not have a little feud over it? Hopefully this is not just a one-shot deal and we can stretch this out a little bit. I'd like that. Going into TLC with a stipulation or something a little more gumption to it, that would be absolutely fantastic. So I'd be okay. I'd be okay with that. I mean, I know they've fought over the title before, but I don't mind. Like, at some point, these are the matches that I don't mind revisiting. These are the matches that do have legitimate interest just because of who's involved. If they were to run it every week, that's something else. But you give it some space, you let it breathe. They come back to it. I mean, ultimately, all promotions do that to a certain extent, right? You can't always be hiring new people and having new fresh matches every 6 months. At some point, you do have to run back to some older stuff that you've done, and that's normal. And I guess where WWE fails a little more than other promotions is that they usually don't allow the history to speak for itself. There's always a new angle, a new story. It's as if WWE always tries to pass this off as something new and fresh, when in fact, well, we've seen it before. Don't try to tell us like this is something new. We're still excited to see it. You could go back and say, oh, last time these two met, this happened. Or again, and I'm sorry to drive this home all the time, but it's kind of like New Japan, because New Japan is an excellent example of that. I have some people who who do challenge me sometimes and say, well, it's always the same guys in the same fights. I mean, yes, but that's the story. That's the story. That's how you tell a sports-centric story. That you get the same guys, but every time the matches are a little different. They're a little newer. There's something a little more interesting to it. And you make that interesting by diving into the past. So I'm still excited to see Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn on Friday night, and it frankly should be a blast. I'm looking forward to it. Oh, and yeah, and like Dan says in the chat, the biggest issue with New Japan is the referees / outside interference. Sure. And that was anyway the most egregious thing at the G1 this year when Marty Asami didn't see Jay White using the ropes to pin Kota Ibushi. It still befuddles me. Where are we going to go with Jay and Roman? What's the next step here? Jay lost, or Jay's team at Survivor Series got demolished. He made it up to Roman later on in the evening. So are they good? What's the next step? Is the stable continuing to grow? That's something I'm looking forward to see, because Roman is very, very interesting. In fact, the question is, who is next on Roman's list? Who should be the next person to challenge Roman Reigns? As it stands right now, you look down the list of who could be a credible opponent straight out the gate, like with very, very little build. I think Kevin Owens is the guy that you call, and you flick the switch and you have him come on and do stuff. I thought with him showing up for commentary on NXT this week, I thought he was going to start something off with Finn, because right now in NXT, I feel they have not the same type of problem. Another type of problem is that all the main eventers that are in a position to challenge Finn are all busy with their own feud. So I thought, oh, well, they're going to bring Kevin Owens in, and there's going to be like, Finn is going to cut one of these promos where he's like the heart and soul, not the heart and soul, but he built NXT, he's NXT, blah, blah, blah. Then Owens might take offense to that, being like, hey, you know what, pal? I sort of cut my teeth here. I sort of, I made this into what it is as well. And then they have like an ego title fight, and I would have been absolutely okay with that. But the issue here, short term, at least for Roman, if they don't run back to immediately to Jay, which I don't think they should, who's the guy that's going to challenge Roman? Hopefully they don't decide to pull Lars Sullivan out of nowhere, if only to absolutely humiliate Lars Sullivan straight out the gate. We haven't seen him for a couple of weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe someone came to their senses. We're at the 2-minute warning. I think we also should expect Carmella and Sasha's feud to kick into gear. Like at this point, it can't just be like kicking people around, not kicking people around, but Carmella running in and super kicking Sasha out of nowhere. It can't be that anymore. I think now we need to move on to something new. Next step of this feud. Clearly, they're going to lead us into a pay-per-view with this. Well, I say clearly. Probably. That's likely what's going to happen. So, I'm completely okay with that. I think it's going to be an interesting match. I'm excited to see Carmella. It's been a while since we've seen her wrestle. I think she was one who had improved dramatically. She had good matches with Charlotte when Charlotte had her return a couple of years ago. I'm excited to see how much she's evolved. And WWE has also said that Bianca Belair would be on SmackDown. Hopefully she gets a squash match and it's not just a vignette. And my wish for Bianca is to feud with Bayley. I think Bayley would be a perfect foil for Bianca Belair to start things off. We'll see what happens. The show is about to start in a few seconds. I want to thank you all for joining me here live on another edition of The Slate on Friday night. Thank you, WWE, for giving us some material. We're able to walk through it. Thank you, everyone who joined me in the chat. Remember, I will be back on Monday to do this for Raw, and of course, the Mr. Warren Hayes Show every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. Consider subscribing That's a fun way to show some support. Like the video. Also as well, thank you Brickbat for calling me a legend. We'll see you on Monday!